welcome to the Octagon house. My name is Adam. I'm going to be taking you through the house today. And I need those tickets again, so if you can produce those for me, I can take my cut of those, as it were. And while I'm taking care of these, you're more than welcome to ring the doorbell here at the Octagon house. The question is, where is the doorbell? It'll be a very short tour if we don't find our doorbell. So go ahead, give it a try.
That's not it.
Not a twist, not a push. There you go. You hear those bells going off?
No. Oh yeah.
All right, you can come on in then. Our Octagon house here was completed in 1854 at the cost of $10,000, which included land and labor, which is, as you can imagine, just a little bit less than what you could build it for today. A couple dollars at most. This opening room here is the entrance hall. If you want to be fancy today, folks, we will go ahead and call this the vestibule. But I have you take a quick look around this room because I don't have anything to say about this room here. We're actually going to step on into the music room to get a little more properly started. Now, as I said, my name is Adam. I'm going to be taking you on through our house today. And while we're on the tour, you folks are more than welcome to take any pictures, cameras, phones, all that fun stuff. And of course, feel free to ask any questions, and I will do my best to answer those for you. But we cannot start our tour without talking about this fellow right here in the picture. You see, his name is John Richards, and he was born in 1806 in Hinsdale, Massachusetts. He attended college at Williams College, where he received his law degree, which coincidentally is located right here on the other side of this big picture. However, 1837 rolled around and he decided that he was sick of Massachusetts. He decided to come on over here to the old Wisconsin territory, where he went ahead and built a log cabin on the other side of the Rock River in that general direction. But as soon as that log cabin was finished, he went right back to Massachusetts, where he went to propose to his childhood sweetheart, Eliza Forbes. Now, at this point, John Richards was not the fabulously wealthy man you see he's eventually going to become. In fact, he was a bit lower on the social ladder. So you can imagine that her parents were less than thrilled that this lower class man wanted to take their daughter away to the Wisconsin territory, where they would probably never see her again. But she did accept the proposal, and part of the proposal was that he told her he was going to build her the finest, the grandest house in the area, and that, folks, is how we got the Octagon house here today. Now, it's also worth mentioning that this home doubles as Watertown's Historical Society. So everything you're going to see today is time period and historically accurate, but it might not all be from the Richards family themselves. And I'll do my best to point it out whenever I can. For example, all the wallpaper we're going to see today in the home is not original, except in one room upstairs, which I will point out when we are there ourselves. This table and this mirror from a different Watertown family, we call this table the Four Seasons table because on each end of the table is a carved figurehead representing a season. So we start over here with winter, and then we have spring right over here. We have summer on this side over here, and then finally on the side over there we have fall. Now, as you circle the table, you may realize that spring, summer, fall, they all appear to be a bit similar looking. My only response for that would be to spend a year here in Wisconsin. Now, our mirror on the wall there is unique in the fact that this mirror has never had to be resilvered. That is the mirror in its original standing. And you're wondering, well, Adam, how is that possible? Well, you see, when they made the mirror, they put a little gold dust on the backside, and that has chemically prevented any deterioration to the mirror itself. Now, it's also a bit more expensive, but we're thankful that family decided to really spend some extra bucks to help protect that mirror for us there. The porches you see outside, those are also not original. The original porches were made of wood, and as you can imagine, those don't tend to make it 160 some years. In fact, our porches lasted until about the early 1920s, at which point they were deemed unsafe and removed. And for a 60-year period until the early 1980s, this is what our Octagon house looks like in its porchless state. Some people prefer the porchless design here. I am not one of them, but to each their own. And then we went ahead and put the porches on that you see outside today. But you're probably wondering, what did the original porches look like? And for that, I'm going to point you to the picture on the wall right here, which shows you the Octagon house and its original porches circa 1880 or so. You can see they are a dark wood and not the white that we have out there today. Now we have a pair of portraits in the room that you might be interested in meeting. Let's start with this one over here. This is one of the Richards' children. The Richards proceeded to have 8 children, and on the wall there is one of their sons. But I really want to talk about how he was painted. You see, when you're out here literally building yourself a new life in the territories, you do not have time to sit around and get a regular portrait done. So what the artist would do was the artist would go ahead and they would pre-paint this entire portrait except for the face and head area. They'd come by in a cart with a whole bunch of them. You'll pick out one you like. Well, and they'll just paint your face and head in there, saving you and the artist quite a bit of time. Little 1850s Photoshop, as it were. You can see that the neck here appears to be a little bit disproportional to the face and head area, and that is because that was there first. The head didn't come until a little bit later. It's also why our son there is wearing some rather gender-neutral clothing, because that could have very easily been a portrait of a young lady, depending on who bought that particular print. Speaking of a young lady, we do have one over here. This is not a Richards family member, a different Watertown family, the Rogan family. That's Miss Rose Rogan on the wall, and she's a bit of a devilish one. If you haven't already noticed, folks, her eyes will follow you all the way around the room. So no matter where you stand in the music room, she will be looking directly at you. I like to say she's keeping an eye on you guys when I'm not. Now there are 2 quick things I'm going to point out that I'm not going to talk about now, but we'll talk about later, and hopefully you remember seeing them. Number 1 is this little latch here on the light fixture right up there. We'll discuss why that's there. And we'll also discuss why there's a shoddily patched up hole on this wall right there. We'll come back to those, so just remember them for now. I'm going to drive over to this piece over here, which is my favorite piece in the music room, which is why I held it until the end. It's this music box, which is an original piece. This music box is well over 150 years old, made from wood from the Black Forest region in Germany. It operates very simply. You would crank this handle here, you would flip this switch, and would run through the 10 songs listed here. Now the music box does actually still work, sometimes, and for that reason we do not play the music box for guests anymore because, you know, I don't want to be the tour guide who breaks the 150-year-old music box. But I can tell you, I've heard it play myself, and it's all, the pitch and melody is all spot on. It's just this roll here that tends to get stuck. And when the roll gets stuck, you have to remove the glass, dig your hand in there, and physically unstick the roll. And let's just say, folks, that is a little bit above my pay grade. So you will have to imagine hearing our music box play for you today. Alright, I'm going to slide into the parlor here. You folks can view the parlor from this window if you want, or you can move back into the vestibule and view the parlor from this spot over there. It does not matter to me. We know that that's Mr. John Richards on the wall. We've met him already. It's the only picture we have of him, so we might see that one a few more times. Over here, this is Eliza Richards, his wife. The 2 ferocious-looking people in the middle, those are her parents. The ones from Massachusetts that weren't exactly very happy she was coming over here in the first place. In fact, you may not know this, but those are the very faces they gave her when she said she was coming to Wisconsin. Not true, of course, but we like to poke some fun at them regardless. Our parlor, our music room, and our vestibule. These constitute what I refer to as the special rooms, because they're only being used for very special occasions. We're talking weddings, holidays, very important guests. If we do not have a special occasion, well then the Richards, they go ahead, they will shut all these doors, lock them up. It's like these 3 rooms cease to exist. No one gets in, no one gets out. They are just gone. You can do that in a house of this size, considering that we do have 57 rooms here in the Octagon house. Now, before you worry about spending the better part of your next month with me going through them all, that does include closets like the one to my left, as well as the closet to my right. However, if you know anything about old houses, you know it is very unusual for there to be closets in a house of this age, as closets don't become a fixture in American architecture until the early 20th century. It just so happens that Mr. Richards put a lot of pieces in this house, which he designed himself, that's literally decades ahead of everybody else. Some very unique features we'll take a look at today. For example, the fireplace on the wall there is original to the home and made of New York marble. Now, what makes that fireplace interesting is that is the only fireplace in the entire Octagon house. Which, of course, begs the question, how is the home heated then? Because you know just as well as I do that fireplaces are the main source of heat at this time. What we have here instead is a series of innovative furnaces that we will take a look at starting in our next room. So I want to put a bookmark in this for now. We'll come back to it, but this is the only time you'll see a fireplace on the tour today. All of our light fixtures are original to the home and are all kerosene filled. Now you notice the one in the music room had that little latch on it. That latch's purpose would be if you pull the latch, it would help pull the fixture down, which makes it pretty easy to light. But you note that this fixture, as well as all the other fixtures in the house, lack said latch, which means all of these are going to have to stay at the height you see them at, which will make them obviously a bit more difficult to light, especially compared to that one that can come down so nicely. So a bit of a mystery why only one of the original ones has that feature, but a mystery nonetheless. All right, well, even though we have our kerosene lights, you may notice it's a little bit dark in the first few rooms here. Don't worry, things are going to brighten up in our next room, I can assure you. That happens to be my second favorite room on the tour today, and that is our dining room. You happen to be standing, folks, in the largest completed Octagon house in the United States of America. Now, there's one a little bit bigger down in Mississippi, a plantation manor, but its construction was never finished due to a little event called the Civil War. So, we're the biggest one here, coming in at 50 feet by 50 feet. You can see the basic pattern to the house is that we have large rooms here, and we have these small rooms. Due to their shape today, folks, I'm going to call them triangle rooms. And they look kind of small on the plans here, but you're going to find they're pretty decent sized rooms. Now, you guys came into one, the vestibule. That was a triangle room. There's a triangle bedroom there. There's a triangle pantry here. And I want you to, again, make sure you take a look at them because you're going to see they're actually a lot bigger than you thought they might have been. All right, back to the dining room. The first thing folks want to look at when they come into the dining room, of course, these nice big windows here. Oh, Adam, I just love these windows here. But of course, these are not windows. We only have a handful of windows in the entire house and won't see them for quite some time, folks. These are all French doors, which you assume is not a really big difference. Oh, no, there's a very important difference between the two. You see, when Mr. Richards was building the house, he found the city of Watertown was going to tax you on every window you had in your house. So how do we get out of a window tax? Well, we put in a whole bunch of French doors that are, of course, not windows, and ends up saving you quite a bit of tax dollars there. So it's a little, it's a law degree coming to work for him there. Now, the triangle bedroom back there belonged to one of the Richards' sons. His name is Willie. The reason his bedroom is there when everyone else's is upstairs is because he walked around with a cane for most of his life. He could not do stairs. In fact, when he was 9 years old, he got injured in a baseball game. He took a ball to the groin. And if you know anything about baseball, you know the baseballs back then would have been quite a bit larger, quite a bit heavier than they are today. So I will let you fill in the blanks from there. That injury left him semi-paralyzed from the waist down. And he died before he made it to age 30 from complications of this injury, most likely internal bleeding. Now, the contraption here, as the rope that works it, that is our dumbwaiter. So the kitchen is directly below us. So you make the food down there, you put it on that little tray, hoist it up. It's like a little elevator for food or small children, assuredly. And now you don't have to worry about carrying your food up a flight of stairs. Now that is a very useful feature at this house, especially considering that Mrs. Richards never had any servants here at the Octagon house. Everything was done by Mrs. Richards and children. I suppose, though, that is why you have 8 children in the first place, though.
Yeah.
Now this piece here, as you guessed, is related to how the home is heated. This is one of our furnaces. So what makes these furnaces unique is there's actually a gigantic central furnace in the basement which can heat the entire house on its own. You don't have to do anything with this piece here. However, we also have an option-based heating system, meaning that you can run these individually to heat a specific room. For example, you'd open this up here, put the wood in, later been converted to coal, so it's coal right now. Put the coal in there, and now you can heat this room on an individual basis. So again, everywhere else had fireplaces, but here we have both a central and option-based heating system. However, not all of our furnaces are still here. So if you don't see a furnace in a room, well, you should keep an eye out for one of 2 things. Either that floor plate down there, and or the circle plate, circle hole, something suspiciously circular on the wall. Hopefully you remember we had that hole on the back wall in our music room there. So a furnace would have been on that wall. That one's a freebie. You're not going to get any more of those from me, so you're going to have to find the rest of the furnaces on your own. And who knows, if we don't find enough furnaces, we might not make it out of the house today. So let's keep an eye out for them. Our living room right this way. Now I told you that the parlor, music room, and vestibule, those were usually shut off. No one could get in those rooms. So coming in the door you guys came in would not exactly be a very efficient use of your time. In fact, the family never entered the house through there. The family always came into the house through this door right here. And that is simply because the living room and dining room would never have been shut off for any reason. Now the chair with the dogs on it over there, that is a specially made chair for Willie. We just talked about Willie over there in his condition. And you can see it's very sunken in, so it's supposed to be an easy in, easy out sort of chair for him. I told you he walked with a cane for most of his life. This is Willie's cane. You can see that Willie was not a tremendously tall individual, now was he? In fact, you may notice that all the furniture in our house today is a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller than you perhaps expected. And that is because the Richards on the whole were actually a very short family. We'll talk about their height more specifically when we are upstairs in their bedrooms. We kind of keep that in mind as we move through the house.
Growth hormones and things.
Mm-hmm. Now, you may be surprised to learn that all of our wicker furniture in the conservatory there is original. And the conservatory would have often been chock full of plants, like most conservatories. You don't believe me, there's a picture on the wall right there that shows you what the conservatory looked like in its heyday, and I can assure you it is very jungle-like. Now, the other feature in the living room here is a staircase. Yes, we have 2 staircases in the Octagon house, and we'll go see one soon. But the other staircase is located in this very room here. And that's because not all doors lead to what they may appear. You see, this is not a closet, but a staircase. So, Mr. John Richards, he was a lawyer. On top of that, he was the mayor of Watertown for a few terms. On top of that, he owned a big farm here and all of the farmland in this area. And on top of that, he owned 3 mills. Now, several of his mill workers got to live here at the Octagon house. That was kind of part of their deal. They got cooked for and cleaned for by Mrs. Richards, and they live up on the 3rd floor of the house. So this way, the workmen can come in through this door right here, trudge over to these stairs and take them on up to the 2nd level, where there's another flight that we'll take a look at that takes them up to the 3rd level of the house. However, you may notice that these stairs are a little bit steep, not particularly exciting. We will not be taking the workman's stairs today, but I think you'll be okay with that when you see what staircase we are taking instead. Do we have any questions about our living room here? And did we find our furnace remnants in the room? All right, there's our floor plate and our circle plate. A little bit higher this time, yes, it's up on the ceiling there. All right. All right, we're 1 for 1. We're off to a good start. We'll see. Now we'll stop skirting around this mysterious middle room and head into my favorite room in the house, which is our stair chamber. So I would highly recommend that you walk on in, hang right here, and then take a look straight on up.
Wow. Beautiful.
So this is our spiral, or more technically accurate, our cantilever staircase. There are 54 steps all the way up to the top. Every single one of them is original, as is this banister here, which is made out of cherry wood grown right here on the Richards farm. This room is a bit of an echo chamber, and that is why our doorbell is located above me right up there. So when you found that knob and pulled it out, you sent a pulse through a piano wire which wound its way through the house, eventually dinging that bell right there. Being an echo chamber in this stair area, you can hear the doorbell anywhere in the entire Octagon house, and that is of course by design. One more thing I'd like to show you in this room, which only some of you will be able to see right now, but it is this picture in this cutout cabinet right there. Now that is part of our running water system. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, come on now, Adam, there's no running water in the 1850s. And of course you're right. Unless you're living here at the Octagon house. You see, what if I told you our roof does not look like this, like most roofs do, so when it rains, water runs off the side. That we're a little bit inverted here. So when it rains, water funnels inwards towards a hole in the roof, where water drops into a tank on the 3rd floor, which uses a series of gravitational base pipes to move water to places like that water station, virtually creating a running water system. Long, of course, before running water systems would actually come about. So don't worry, we'll get to take a look at all of these. I have aptly titled them facets of the faucets, because we'll get to take a look at the station, the hole, and the tank as we ascend our Octagon house today. Do we have any questions for our first flight of stairs? If not, then feel free to follow me up, take a look at that water station, and when you folks are ready, you're going to join me in the first bedroom to your left, known as the Lincoln bedroom.
Off most of the time.
Yeah.
Oh. It's too dizzy. Looking up, looking down, or both.
I was like this and I looked over and I thought,
Now, the inevitable question about this room is, of course, why is it called the Lincoln bedroom? It is not because Abraham Lincoln was ever here, but because the bed in our room looks very similar to the bed in the famous Lincoln bedroom in the White House, which you can see in a picture right here. You can see that their bed's a little more intricate on their foot and headboards. Other than that, it is pretty much the exact same. So we got a couple tie-ins, but I'll let you in on a little secret. The real reason we call this Lincoln bedroom is because we don't know whose bedroom this was. It's not the master bedroom, and it's not a guest bedroom, it is simply a bedroom. And that's not as fancy of a title, so we've given it the Lincoln bedroom to make it sound a little bit more interesting. This next part I'm going to show you is a bit tricky for you guys to see now. It is the continuing work of the staircase up to the 3rd floor. You will eventually be able to stand right here. I promise you'll get a much closer view, but I can't come to the ropes there. And I want to show you what the first step of this staircase looks like. Because it's a bit taller of a first step than you would want your step to be here. Now, everyone wants to know, why is our first step so tall? And our company line is, we don't know. But Personally, I believe there would have been a portable or removable step here. You can see if you had another stair, you would not be able to get through the passageway here. But if you had a step that either could be rolled in, placed in, folded under, that allows you to both complete the staircase and use this hallway. However, I can't officially tell you that, so consider that the unofficial portion of today's tour. Now, I'm going to assume you are fairly familiar with what this lovely piece is right down there. That's your chamber pot. I'm not going to dwell on it, and I suggest you don't either. I'm more concerned with what this piece is there, because you're probably not familiar with that one, and that's because it ties into our water system. So, let's say you want to wash your face. Well, you'll go down the stairs to that little station we saw. You bring your water over to your basin, you wash your face, and what do you do with that water when you're done with it? Well, you take that water, and it goes right there in the slop jar. It's where your used water goes. Okay, but now what do we do with that water? Because now it's just sitting there. Well, Mrs. Richards uses that water to scrub the floors here of the Octagon house. So it's a little water recycle program, as it were, which is very, makes a lot of sense considering that rain is not exactly the most consistent factor in this area, shall we say. Finally, you see we have a trundle bed under the bed here. We have 8 children. We do not have 8 bedrooms. So there's going to be multiple children in a bedroom, and that is where something like a trundle bed comes into play. Do you have any questions about our Lincoln bedroom? If not, then I'm just going to spin you around and we'll check out the master bedroom right behind you there.
Little kids are the best. This is the best.
I will meet you in the master bedroom. I have to take a little bit longer of a way to get in. But take a look at the master bed for me. It's a very unusual bed, is it not? It's very short, and it's also very tall. Well, I told you the Richards were short people. Mr. Richards was all of 5'1", and Mrs. Richards was 5 foot exact. And you saw the kids didn't get to be very tall either. But the bed is also very tall, and that is because it is a rope bed. So if you're not familiar with a rope bed, instead of a frame, there's actually a series of ropes that are tied across. On top of this goes a hay mattress. On top of that goes a pillow mattress, which is why the bed's so tall. But the ropes would need to be securely fastened. If they were not, of course, then maybe sitting in the bed would just collapse and sink down, which would be very uncomfortable. So you'd want to check those ropes probably every night. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we get the phrase, sleep tight. Now, the second part of that phrase might have something to do with the hay mattress I mentioned. I promised I'd show you the one room in the Octagon house with original wallpaper. It's not this room. It's a little triangle room to my right, your left, which is a green and yellow faded floral design, and that is original wallpaper, and that room functioned as the nursery, which you assume with 8 children was being used rather frequently. Not the case, though. You see, 7 of the 8 children were not born here, but in the little log cabin across the river while this house was being built. Only the 8th one, Charles, was born here, so he got the nursery. And he did get the street named after him because the Octagon house does reside on Charles Street, named for Mr. Charles Richards. So kind of a lucky guy, I guess. All right, then we're going to go out the hallway and into our guest bedroom here. The guest bedroom is by far the nicest bedroom here in the Octagon house, and that was by design. You wanted to have your nicest things for your guests. And that guest bedroom is also connected to this little triangle bedroom here, which would have been a secondary guest bedroom as well. Now, we'll continue to work this room left to right, so I'd like to focus our attention on this piece right here, because you may or may not be familiar with what is boxed next to me here. So, you may be familiar with something called a shadow box. That is usually a wreath-based thing, usually made out of flowers, fruits, butterflies, natural pieces. This right here, that's not a shadow box. You don't want to mix those two up, I can assure you. Because while the shadow box is made of the benign materials I mentioned, this is made out of finer materials, shall I say. If you're not familiar with this piece here, this is your human hair wreath. in which you make one of two times. The first time is after someone would die, kind of take some of their hair and memorialize it. This is the second variety, don't worry. The family tree variety, in which everyone kind of donates some hair and you're all woven together in family unity, or something like that. It also sits above a very unique piece here. Now, one of Mr. Richards' mills was a lumber mill. So as you can imagine, a lot of the wood pieces you see in the house are custom-made pieces, like this one. It's a child-proof sewing table. You can see that children for 160 years have been trying to get in, but they can't. You have to know that it only opens from the bottom. And instead of having to dig through all of your sewing drawers, this is a revolving sewing table.
I need one of those.
And the revolving piece on the whole is in the shape of an octagon. So very representative of the house as a whole. I'll leave that open so you guys can take a look at it. I'm going to next turn my attention to this little white circle vent on the side wall there. That is part of the air conditioning system. Not ours, but his, which works to the effect that our house is built with 3 layers of brick. In between each layer of brick is a designed air pocket for air movement and air flow. This allows warm air to do what it does best, rise up and out of the house, and cool air to come in through vents like that. So it's basically a convection-based air conditioning system. I would be remiss to not mention that these are still all French doors that could have been opened up to help cool the house down. We have not made it to windows yet, but we will see some soon, I promise you. But the best piece in the guest bedroom is over here, because for all intents and purposes, folks, this is a sink. As you can see, guests did not have to go to the stairs to get their water. Nope, it ran right to the room here. It runs out into the sink bowl where it drains out just like a normal sink bowl. The only thing is that it'll just drain into like a slop jar underneath there. So very close to a sink. One of my favorite pieces on our tour today, because imagine how many people standing right here would have their first ever encounter with running water. They would be quite amazed, I imagine. A sink is a good segue to a bathroom. We do have just one bathroom here in the Octagon house. That is because you didn't need this room that much, as you can imagine. You went to the bathroom in your chamber pot, and you did not bathe very frequently. You took your bath about once or twice a year. And when you did take your once or twice a year bath, everyone used the same bath water. And when you did take your once or twice a year bath in which everyone used the same bath water, there was a set bathing order. Goes oldest to youngest, parents first. So Mr. Charles Richards, he may have gotten the nursery and the street named after him, but he probably didn't get very clean because he was number 10 in the bathing order. And that is where we get the phrase, don't throw the baby out with the bath water, because they were last. Across from me is a triangle room which serves as a memorial to 3 Richards girls who died very young. One was 2, one was 3, the other was about 10 and a half, and they all died of the same thing, lung fever, which is more or less tuberculosis. So yes, Richards had 8 children, but of course, those 3 didn't live particularly long, neither did Willie, so about half the Richards children survived into adulthood, which is a very normal percentage. One of the 50% is pictured over here. This is Anna Richards. The reason her picture is here is because this is her bedroom. She eventually would take over the house. Mr. John Richards, of course, ran the house till he died in 1874 at the age of 68. Eliza took over, and Eliza ran the house till she died in 1902 in her late 80s. Then Anna takes over. Anna runs the house till she dies in 1936 in her early 90s. Her son Billy takes over. Billy runs the house till he dies just next year in 1937. At that point, there are no more direct descendants who want to live here. So the house is ceremoniously sold to the city of Watertown for $1, under the stipulation, of course, that it be opened up and ran as a museum. As such, we have been giving tours of the Octagon house here since 1938. Now, I can tell you I've not been touring here since 1938, but it does feel like that sometimes, I can assure you. This back area here is where our workman stairs came up from the first level, and I promise you get this great view at the really tall first step. So allow me to step out of your way so you can take a look at that yourself. We're going to move back to the staircase to move up to the 3rd floor, which is where our workmen live. However, we did not keep it like the workmen had it. We instead turned it into a few little museums with some of our many donated items that we get being the Historical Society. So we'll spend a little bit of time in there, not a whole lot. I won't do a lot of talking. We'll just kind of look through them and move along. How many workmen? About 8 to 10. And they would have occupied this entire floor, remember, not just the first room that we're going to see. This is a very transitionary living space. Perhaps you just moved to town, needed a place to work up some money as you saved up for your own place. If you were married, you were definitely not living here. So remember, the whole floor would have looked like that level. You also notice that we have made it to windows on the 3rd floor. So there's a good example of the rope bed in the workman's room as well. I'll meet you in the next room. Never climbing the floor stairs. Very good. I know the house was turned over in the late 30s, in the 1930s still. Alright, this first room here, I just called it the time period room. Again, I won't really say much about this room here. The only thing I'll point out is right over there. It is a 3-in-1 endless hours of fun. It is a swing, a bouncy chair, and if you unhook it, a rocking chair. So, really the pinnacle of entertainment. The second room here is a Watertown museum. Everything in here is from the city of Watertown. This sign does aptly point us to the water tank room, so that is going to be our next destination. You'll see the workman's stairs again.
Are all of these floors originals?
They are, and they are all pine. We do have a few talking points in this room here before I let you look around. Number one, you may notice that our ceiling is sloping down to the middle, like I told you that it would. Point number two, we stripped the ceiling in the, stripped the plaster away in that pink room so you can see what the lath looks like in the house here. Point number three is, of course, the water tank. I'm not going to explain the water tank because there's a big sign that does it better than I can, but I will highlight two pieces from the sign. Number one, the tank is not built with a single nail or screw, and point two, there's a primitive way to heat the water, but I'll let you read about that. And finally, everything in this room is military memorabilia, so I'll give you some time to look around in this room. As you can see, you don't need a very large furnace at this level. The heat rises on its own quite well. Our next destination is going to be the cupola, which is of course our highest point in the Octagon house. So we'll head there next. Now, the reason I have stopped specifically at this step is if you do the same, you lean out this left, and then you're going to have to lean a little bit, and you will see a small hole. That is where the water came in. Now, it's probably going to be a smaller hole than you anticipated. Up in the cupola, we have 1, 2, 3 windows and a French door. The French door would allow you access to the roof in case you need to shovel, clear debris, have a party. It was documented that they watched the fireworks from up there. The roof is primarily a tin composition. That is not a trap door, but a skylight. That rope would be hanging here. You can pull that rope open to open those slats up. This gives you natural lighting and air all the way down the spiral staircase. We have reached the top of our spiral staircase, so if you feel so inclined, you may look straight down. I am to advise you not to fall off. I don't want to lose any more guests. It's a lot of paperwork. I would also not recommend sliding the banisters all the way down unless you wish to become a permanent resident of the home, like I am. We've got a couple pictures here. The arrows point to the various spots that pictures were taken from. You can see you used to have a great view from up here. Nowadays, not so much. The trees kind of grew up and blocked all of the views here. Of course, you can't be mad at having more trees, but not as great of a view anymore. As we continue down the basement stairs, you are going to see a sign that tells you to watch your head because it gets rather low. But consider this your personal reminder to watch your head because it does get rather low. This is indeed where the magic happens. This is our kitchen here. A few fun things to look at. If you look in this back pantry here, look to the left, peek over here, you'll see on the other side of this wall, you'll see a rope. That is where the dumbwaiter would be if it was at this level. We of course know that it's at the dining room. We already talked about this, but yes, the family would eat down here. Sometimes on hot days, you can tell it's a lot cooler down here. But every day, the workmen would eat down in the kitchen here. Now that is not the original stove. The original stove would have been quite a bit bigger, actually. Remember, she's cooking for about 20 people a day. What is original, though, is this Dutch oven here, which bakes 24 loaves of bread at once, which probably would have been done every other day, in my estimation. The dry sink is located here, and the water for that sink comes from either the well outside that window there, or the cistern located down there through this passageway. We will be heading through the passageway next. You're also going to see the central furnace. Ignore that for now. We're going to talk about it on the other side where you'd actually feed the wood in. Thankful that these wooden planks are here. They would not have been. This would have just been a sand-floored room. The reason for that is tied to this window here. You can see we are below ground level here. And at the door, we are at ground level. We are built into a hill. Because of that, it very likely could flood. How do you deal with flooding? The sand sucks up water, just like on the beach, and now you don't have to worry about flooding. Nothing in this room is Richards, just technological advances of the time, and I use that for useful. My favorite piece of the room is the bicycle right there. In this room is our giant central furnace. Now, it was made in New York, which is fine, but how are you going to get it to Watertown, Wisconsin in 1854? Well, the fastest way possible is by boat. So this went on to the Hudson River, which then got you onto the Erie Canal, which put you on the Great Lakes, and finally you could get into Milwaukee. And now you're out of water. So you're going to have to oxen team this down the Watertown Plank Road, which was, as it sounds, a road of planks between here and Milwaukee. Just to get that right here in this house. Now, as you can imagine, this went through a lot of wood, and wood was stored in this back area right there. However, the central furnace went through quite a bit of it, which is again why having a lumber mill might be a useful thing. In fact, on a cold day, the central furnace could go through an entire cord of wood in just one day. Well, we've seen it's a pretty big house. We know it has a lot to heat for sure. Do watch your step again. I'd hate to lose you so close to the end. I have one final piece for you guys. It is the original lock and key to the back door right here. Now, look at the size of that key. It's a pretty big key. And that's how it's still here after 160 some years. It's not as small as the little car keys are that are easy to lose or misplace. So that was been for the door right here. Now, in case you were unaware, the first kindergarten in the entire United States is that little white building right down there. Now, it had nothing to do with the Richards. It was elsewhere here in Watertown. We kind of picked it up and moved it over here. There's also a little red barn down there, but that has a bunch of old equipment that you're more than welcome to take a look at. However, both of those tours are self-guided tours, which means I am all finished with you folks. So, thank you very much for coming on the tour today. I hope you enjoyed going through the Octagon house with me. And have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.